Hello everybody, welcome to my channel and welcome to the first Feature Friday product feature video for 2021. The first Friday of every month I will feature some type of crafty product and talk about it and give a few examples of ways to use it and maybe create a small project with it. So this product that we're talking about today is called Liquid Applique, and it is a wet product. I'd say it looks a lot like glue coming out of the tube, and you apply it to your paper. It does say it works on fabric, but I've never tried it that way before. You apply it in whatever shape sizes you want. I've even, this is the first time I've played with it this way where I've smeared it around. So you can apply it however you want. And the fun of this is that when you heat it, it expands and puffs up. So you can get some snow-like effects, you can get some furry effects, you can get various textures using this stuff. So here it is as I start processing it, and I'm just using my regular heat embossing heat gun. I don't know if a hairdryer would work for this one. Possibly, since it is designed to be used with fabric, but I'll see if I can figure that out and pop up a note on the screen. But here's what the texture looks like once it's done. It expands quite a bit. It can look like popcorn. I've used it that way before. So it has this really fun texture, and the spot where I smeared it, it actually gave more like a frosting consistency, or you'll see later in the video that I kind of use it as a dirt or grass. And I know it's a little hard to see on the screen, but I will intersperse some close-up photos for you as well. So this stuff is just fun to play with. It adds a lot of really interesting texture to your projects. And so I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks. Now the tube does say to let it dry overnight, and I found that it didn't really matter. For paper crafters, I seem to get the same results. And here I am using some ink to color it, and I found that actually that didn't work quite as well because it deflated some of the puff to it. Now this piece here I did let dry overnight, and I will show you that because it is kind of a glue-like product, it will resist any ink that you put on top of it when it is non-puffed. Now I use that marker, and you can see that if I just tap it off with a tissue, most of the ink will come off. But if you use a Sharpie, actually, because Sharpies are made for permanent applications, the Sharpies worked. Now I did heat it up, and both colors lost vibrancy as it was heated, so keep that in mind. Now here I had pre-puffed the product, and then I was coloring over the top of it with my ink products. And did I say Sharpies? I'm using Copic markers in this video, but basically any alcohol-based marker will work. And there I am with the tissue to show you that the water-based markers did bleed off the project even after it was puffed. But once I left it dry overnight, that seemed to solve the problem. So you can color this with markers, either alcohol or regular markers, and get some similar effects. So here is the little project I created using this. I took out some of my stamps and created some little 3x4, journaling cards or pocket cards with some stamps. And I use these stamps by Art Impressions, and I'll show on the screen in just a moment the code numbers for these because those stamps are still available. Now this tube of liquid applique is made by Marvy, and it's widely available on craft sites as well as Amazon. You can even sometimes find it in places like Walmart, Target, stuff like that. I'm using, I wanted to say that the tubes are under $4 a piece in general. Okay, so I am using a pigment ink here to stamp my little scenes to prevent any possible bleeding when I'm adding this liquid product on top of it, as well as my inking. And I am creating the same exact tree in various seasons. So this product, while it looks a lot like snow and it's used a lot for creating snow effects, it can be used for other things too. So that first one I did create a snow effect. I sprinkled some snow within the branches and some snowflakes falling from the sky, and then made a snowy ground scene. This one I'm going to create ocean, sand, rocks, and clouds, all with this same texture product. And when we get to the inking of this particular scene later, you'll see it better. Here I just wanted to give a look at what it is like just straight on cardstock. So then I use a little wet wipe to keep my fingers clean as I'm working with this. Here I am creating little spring blossoms on my tree branch. So that's another way you can use that. And I'm adding little blossom petals to my ground. And then I will spread that out and create more of a dirt look with my product. And then here I'm going to create a grassy scene on the ground. And all of that will be more clear once the whole thing is colored in. Now, I didn't do that for the video here. I just did a couple of scenes so you could get the general idea. Now, on the tree, I am spreading the liquid applique thin, and then I'm adding blobs of product to create extra texture. So that is going to be a full flush leafy green tree. Now I do store my tubes of liquid applique tip side down in a cup, so that keeps all the product right at the tip, because they're not super full, so you will have to squeeze and squeeze if they're not stored this way. So moving on, I am coloring up some of these scenes to give you a full example of what these projects could look like. Now, this little tree scene, I am blending out a sky scene, and I added a little brown to the ground. And here I am adding some snowflakes. Now, when I added this liquid applique on top of ink already and smeared it around, it did pick up some of the ink and color the product. So if you're going to want to spread it, I'd recommend coloring it. Just know that it will pick up any color that's underneath it. And I use it both ways actually on the project with this lighthouse. So I'm going to do kind of the same thing, and I'm going to ink up the sky. I'm using two different blues, a sky blue, and then I have a different blue for the water that I will do. I have two browns for the rocks. Let's see, what colors do I have? You can see my Stampin' Up! Pad there is the darker blue, and it's a retired product. I've got some Distress ink and antique linen and broken glass, I believe, and then a Catherine Pooler rose color, I think that one is. So here is my brown that I am adding. This will be my rocks and my sand. And I will add color underneath before I add the applique. And here we go, starting with that. Now, if you just tap the applique onto the color and leave it be, it won't pick up that color from behind. So my clouds on top of that blue will remain white. Now, you saw that harsh line with the blue water line there. Now, I'm going to solve some of that with my liquid applique, because once it's heated, it is pretty opaque so that you won't be able to see through it. So it will cover up that harsh line there. And I am doing a mixture of smoothing and leaving it thick and textured. And then when I heat it, it does dull back the colors like we noticed previously in the video. But I am going to go ahead and add more color on top of it. So when I spread it and smoothed it in the water, it did pick up some of that color. But I'm going to add more color here on top of that. And you can always kind of mask off areas of your project that you don't want to get color on. So here I am adding more color on top of the rocky area of my scene, and then more onto the beachy sand area. So the water was a mixture of smooth applique and textured applique. My sand was smooth applique, and it gives just a bit of a pebbly texture when it's heated. So you can play with the thickness of this product and get various textures. So I am just going to finish off this little project with a tiny bit of watercoloring using markers as my coloring product. So that is all the basics for this product. I will have a few close-up photos at the end with a few more tips and tricks, so be sure to watch all the way to the end. As I'm finishing up this watercoloring here, I will tell you that next month, so February, the first Friday of the month, will be another product feature, or as I'm calling it, Feature Friday video. And I will be focusing on embroidery floss and how to add it mostly to scrapbooking, but of course a lot of these ideas are applicable across various crafting. So we will be playing with that next month, and that's as far as I've planned so far. So if you have a product you are curious about, leave me a comment. I'm not going to make any promises, but I will definitely take some suggestions and keep those in mind for future months. And I hope you come back. So that finishes up the lighthouse, and I will have some better exposed photos at the end here. As we head out, I will give you a few tips on this stuff. Now, here is a photo with the left hand being the wet product and the right hand being the puffed product. You can see the difference in texture, and when you smear it out, you get a much more subtle texture. And I will say here that if you're going to use this in scrapbook albums, it will smash down a little bit. So if you keep it a little thinner, that will keep it from becoming flat looking. Even though it will deflate some and be less puffy, you'll still get a good result without it looking flat if you use slightly less product. Here is the tree I played with, adding various colors. You can see I colored those cherry blossoms. And then this is the texture you can get on a full leafy tree. So I was really excited about that. I would love to add color to that one. And again, we have our lighthouse with some pre-colored, post-colored, before and after close-up views. So I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that. And I hope you come back next week for my scrapbook layout process videos and for any of my future videos. Thanks for joining me.